not match the DNA of his child. All right. We also know that there was no, they said he was shot by a desert eagle. We know that there was no signature when it rolled up. So nobody shot themselves when it rolled up to it. You would have seen a large signature. Mr. Guns and Gear, he's on X. He goes into this a lot in depth. He's a firearms expert and he talks about this. And there's no signature. So this is what happens. You get a Tesla because you know it can drive itself up to the hotel, the Trump Tower. You put a body in it, roll it up. It's already burned up. Or it's already shot, excuse me. You don't want to kill anybody because that's not the message you're trying to send. You're not trying to level the tower or kill a bunch of people. So you load it up with fireworks and a bunch of junk to send a message. And we know that his signal number or his signal safety number changed. That can't be done unless you're inside that signal account. And a lot of people conjecture, was the FBI inside his signal account, whatever else. But what if he accidentally changed his safety number, goofed up there? He rolled a body up in a Tesla, specifically because a Tesla can drive itself up to the tower, and did what he did to send a message to expose his stuff, and he's still alive out there somewhere.
Well, the other
answers a lot of questions.
The other thing is maybe the FBI wasn't in his phone. Maybe, I mean,
He's saying this guy went and caught a fresh body, right? Oh, some James Bond, John Wickian activities, right? Rolled the body up in the truck, tied dude up, and then probably phone bombed him, or with fireworks and stuff. You really think he did that? If he did that, they need to lock his ass up. That's you don't need to be talking about him like he is some vigilante of some sort. No, he needs to be in jail if that's true. 1, 2, I highly doubt that happened. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's probably toast. Damn, I keep doing
obviously very competent. I mean, he's got a TSSCI clearance for the polygraph. He's been associated with USASOC. Obviously, he was on this operation in 2019. By the way, the general in charge of that was General Miller. You'll see that in the email that we post on X later after this interview comes out. You know, maybe he changed his number on purpose and switched phones because he obviously was tipped off or conducted his own counter surveillance and caught Homeland or FBI tracking him. And
this is crazy, right? So they're saying this guy was so elite as a military operator, he may well have got a body, self-drove the Tesla into the front of the Trump Hotel, blown it up on purpose to send a message about this alien technology. Okay, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this is what they're actually saying. These are serious people that they're putting forward these theories. So,
bro, they speaking bullshit, man. I keep doing it. They're just talking bulgogi, man. Straight bulgogi. It don't make sense.
There'll be no direct correlation found between this incident at the Trump Hotel and the New Orleans attack, but some sources would basically confirm that, you know, the attacker displayed zero signs of radicalization prior to the event, and just both of these incidents are still very unexplained, and the timing of them is extremely suspect.
do you think there was any correlation between him and the New Orleans attack?
No.
I don't either.
I looked at all that. I looked at the posts. I looked at the, you know, people are scrambling for news. Everybody wants to post something. They want to be the guy on social media that posts the groundbreaking thing. And I saw these connections to Fort Bragg, and they deployed together at this time. And it was great. So did 500,000 of the rest of us. I was at Fort Bragg. Oh man, tie me to Delta Force. I must have been part of Delta Force and some slaps. No, I had nothing to do with them. You know, it's this nonsense. It's a big organization. The Army is very large. You're picking things out and you're trying to make this a thing. That New Orleans guy was a staff sergeant who got out of the active duty Army in 2015, and he was in the reserves until 2020. People are saying in the last year he was radicalized. I talked to multiple of his peers, to include, I'm going to be very, very careful with this, former leadership, I'm not going to give what echelon they were at, former leadership of his, there was no indication at all back then that he was radicalized. He didn't say radicalized. I've seen the posts. I saw several people who were saying, well, we have confirmed posts that he...
I mean, it's possible that he was a little out there. You sound a little too confident. I mean, he knew the guy, though. He knew the guy. I mean, I do believe that there's things flying in the sky that we don't know about. But you got to be out there to believe that. I'm a little out there, too, my damn self, so, hey.
Radical Islamic things, I don't believe it, because nobody he worked with confirmed that. They said no, we had no indication that he was like this. And if you talk to people now, they said in the last year he was radicalized. He started taking on these more radical teachings of Islam and everything else, and he had this, he fell into financial hardship and all these other things. So you're telling me this guy who was a former 42 Alpha S1
White
guy,
Ock,
human resources, pushes your paper, and then an IT guy, 25 Bravo, is somehow connected to a Green Beret team sergeant out of 10? No.
Well, also they found an ISIS flag in New Orleans,
Which
they didn't find any of that here.
I think that might have been just some silliness on his part, trying to take on some kind of Islamic banner of jihad. I would conjecture, all conjecture, say that is likely he has no affiliations to ISIS. But
I wonder. I don't really believe in coincidences.
See,
In both of these.
hey, just like me, I said that earlier, y'all. Coincidences don't exist. They're just not real. You know why? Because something always leads to something. You ever read Berserk? Causality. Even if something is deemed a coincidence with heavy quotations, it's not really a coincidence, because whatever led to that coincidence, the person that caused it had a thought and process of what they wanted to do. It just led to something else. You know what I mean? Like the law of causality. Like, I wanted to grab an orange that I seen on the lunch table, and it just happened to be Billy's last orange. That's not a coincidence that I grabbed it, and me and Billy don't like each other, surprisingly. But that's not a coincidence. I didn't know that was Billy's app, but I had the thought process of going to go get the orange, you feel me? It's causality. But let's go. That might not even be a good synonym or whatever, but
Happened in the same day, or both of these attacks, whatever you want to call them, happened on the same day. The attack and the explosion, which obviously wasn't meant to be an attack.
that's fair, and I don't believe in coincidences either normally, but I look at a landmark day like January 1st, and I think, what better day? Any day. I'm going to do a thing, January 1st.
Yeah.
And I think
you think he's John Wick.
possibly old boy in New Orleans had help. I don't think that he could have done all the spotting and surveying and assessing himself. He would have likely had to at least have a spotter to say, yeah, you're good to go. Maybe. But I think that's plausible. But other than that, I have a hard time making that connection.
Man. So a lot of people find these connections, very, very interesting, very, very coincidental. American UFOologist Stephen Greer would, in his opinion, connect the casualty to suppressed UFO-related.
Stephen Greer might be a CIA informant or a CIA operative or an agent, or like just like a government pawn, because he's been talking about these aliens forever. Since I was in middle school, this dude been talking about, I have proof of aliens. I be meditating and seeing them. They come and talk to me, and he don't never show no proof, no videos, no nothing. I ain't. Let's go though.
So he wrote this manifesto that they're trying to suppress, like they do with everything else. But it sort of ebbs into this world. Is there any connection just between what is going to happen next week and what we saw in Las Vegas on New Year's Day?
Correct, there is. And again, that was sort of a psychological warfare operation by someone in special forces, giving a heads up on this. It's not a coincidence it happened at the Trump building and that it was in a cyber truck.
Hey, bro, man, stop playing with me with my little 7 subscribers, man. I said that earlier too. It's not no coincidence. It happened in front of the Trump Tower. I said, bro, if it's China, they try to send the message, because like, why right in front of the Trump Tower? Who, if you gonna blow up, like how rare is it you just pull up to in front of the Trump Tower and blow up? The car not even moving. I'm just saying, unless the dude just wanted to blow up, but it seems planned and coordinated. It's always planned and coordinated. With all the stuff going on in the world right now, like, come on.
He refers to gravitic propulsion systems, and that's what's going to be coming out, because we have mastered gravity control for decades, and this is why many of the craft people see that they think it's alien.
And he wrote about that in the manifesto.
So people believe that this is basically, the anti-gravity technology that is apparently had by the government for years.
They saying they using. I knew that was some specialized bomb. That was the weirdest explosion ever. It was the most explosive confined explosion I've seen in a while. Doors was not blowing off that car. Like, I think the most that happened was like the sunroof and like the windshield bust open. Probably the windows too. But who knows? Cybertruck, Elon Musk.
Near from alien crafts, and a lot of people believe that this explosion was actually a message for that. Now, one thing to note was that despite the car being fully burned, Matthew's passport and ID were recovered from the scene safely. What are the chances, huh?
Explosion. Among the charred items found inside that truck were 2 firearms, both purchased legally, a number of fireworks, a passport, a
Whole passport, you could just read the whole thing. It was in great condition.
military ID, and credit cards. Investigators say the driver's body is burnt beyond recognition.
I'm feeling comfortable to give you this information.
So the body's burnt beyond recognition, and the DNA doesn't match his kids, but passport is in great condition.
There's a tremendous amount of substantial
Government.
evidence to include he rented the Turo vehicle. There are 2 tattoos, one of which was on the.
I'm gonna be honest. I said all that China stuff just because it low key kind of makes like a little bit of sense, but I don't think China get down like that. The only people on the planet that I know get down like that is the U.S. government. I ain't gonna lie to you, or the Mossad.
And one of which is on the arm, that we can see bits and pieces of it as in comparison to what it is that we now know he had on his body.
7 people standing nearby were injured in that explosion. Investigators say the Cybertruck was rented in Colorado. Police are also thanking Elon Musk for providing video from charging stations that are helping in the investigation. The FBI says...
Yeah, Elon Musk was able to help out and get busy. Apparently, the police were able to recover some interesting information. They got data from the, victim/perpetrator's phone, as well as video from those charging stations where the Tesla was charged.
Accessing the data in one of the phones that was recovered. You can see the phone here in the vehicle. It's very burnt from the outside. You can see another image here. But we're able to take this phone and be able to extract the data using a variety of different tools. And in that, we've identified a variety of information, but one thing in particular is there was an application in there.
So the phone survived the explosion is what you're telling me? The phone survived the explosion. These people wicked, man.
The suspect used to take notes. In that application, one of the notes is titled Surveillance Log by the Suspect. It appears to be more of a journal of activity. It dates for about 10 days leading up to the incident, from December 21st to December 31st of this past year. In that surveillance log, or as we would like to call it, a journal, because it's more of a diary of activity that he's conducting, we identify multiple locations that match what we have in the route. We identify activity that we've matched. So, for example, him purchasing firearms, him purchasing camping equipment or other types of equipment that were used in this incident matched what our data showed in terms of the route and the video surveillance we were recovering along that route. In addition to that, in terms of our assessment of the post-blast to confirm that he's the only individual involved and the only individual.
The explosion, you see that? It just went and shot straight up. No doors, nothing, just okay.
The vehicle. We did a variety of video and photo comparisons to match the clothing. So if you look here, for example, this is a video in Las Vegas, and you're going to see in a moment here where he parks the Tesla truck. He comes out, and you're going to see some descriptive clothing that matches some of the other video that we've recovered along the route. Please keep in mind, this is a very extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them. There's more information as we go through it. But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle. The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us engineers to come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle. Thanks to their support, we were able to extract an SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle, and Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident.
Duh, they don't want that on their head. They know that's a case.
So that does kind of, trash the theory that he put a dead body in the car and self-drove it up there as a decoy, okay? And then combine that with the matching of the tattoos. It does sound like that probably was his body in there. Maybe it all went wrong. It is very, very bizarre. and unexplained. Now, connecting back to what was said earlier in his little sort of goodbye note that he put, where he suggested that the drone activity that was going on was actually, foreign governments testing anti-gravity technology, well, that connects to all those drones that were allegedly seen in New Jersey, still unexplained, and investigative journalist Ross Coulthard basically says that he believes that the mysterious New Jersey drones were indeed UFOs, just as was claimed by the Tesla bomber. Okay, this is Ross Coulthard now claims that the New Jersey drones were anti-gravitic Chinese vehicles, just like the January 1st Cybertruck suicide.
See, it might have been China that got him, or he did it to himself to do like the Big Bang and, make his death be prolific and draw attention to it all. But the way they got down with it all, that's like some U.S. government tactics. Unless they're trying to really, really send a message. Like, they could get down like that, too. You know what I'm saying?
Matthew Allen Liversberger said. Matthew Allen Liversberger, an ex-Green Beret, took his own life to warn the public there will be a nuclear war between the USA and China if something doesn't drastically change. But the rabbit hole on this one goes deep.
The suggestion that is being put to me is that the Chinese have indeed made a huge advance in electrogravitic technology, and it's taken us by surprise, and that the United States has been caught asleep at the wheel. It was complacently, hubristically thinking that it was way ahead of its foreign adversaries. And in fact, the big show that took place, notably, I know it was reported mainly over New Jersey, I'm increasingly persuaded that the initial show, at least, was, in part, Chinese. And that what happened was the United States responded with technology of its own to muddy the waters. And so you had this ridiculous situation where, if you believe it, and this is the implication not only from my Senator Mike Roun's interview, but also from the interview that General Glenn Van Herk, the former head of Northcom and NORAD, did to 60 Minutes' Bill Whitaker a few months ago. They basically admitted that there's someone operating with impunity over the continental United States, flying so-called drone technology. These drones are not using known propulsion systems. They're not using jets. They're not using propellers. They're not using any kind of known turbine propulsion system that emits the kind of heat that we're used to from that kind of technology. The suggestion is they're using some type of electrogravitics. And my sources are telling me that the big story that, frankly, the US doesn't want you to know about right now, the story that's not being discussed in the media, is the implications of the admissions made by General Glenn Van Herk, in particular, to 60 Minutes, which kind of went through the gate and were largely ignored by most other media, but which I think are incredibly significant.
Very, very spooky, right? So I'll show you the rest of this thread because it's really interesting. So Jake Barber's organization for summoning UAPs, Skywatcher, is filled with ex-military personnel, especially Green Berets. In my opinion, Matthew Allen Liversberger was one of the 40 whistleblowers who informed David Grush firsthand about the UAP phenomenon, and he recently lost his life. Jake Barber is referring specifically to him, not another whistleblower who died much earlier. He's talking about the ex-Green Beret, Matthew Allen Liversberger. So let's hear what he said.
Mr. Grush, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs? Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
Are you one of David Grush's 40 first-hand witnesses that he says he presented to the Intelligence Community Inspector General Thomas Monheim?
No, Dave and I met after his initial complaint was filed with the ICIG, and those guys represented a set. I don't know the 40. I know of some of them. One of them is the guy who's no longer with us, whose demise was quite conveniently timed for those who might have something to do with it. But sorry, I didn't mean to go there with it. But
Mr. Grush, finally,
so everyone thinks something else went on, something else a little bit more complicated went on.
Something else happened.
So it says the war with China is part of a larger plan about who will dominate the new world after the geophysical event, a plan that was leaked.
I told you, they doing the Philosopher's Stone, man. I ain't know about no geo whatever. If the geophysical event is like the poles switching, if they think the poles are gonna switch in like the next 10 years and like it's gonna be like apocalyptic and all of that whatnot going on, which I hope not. I really don't see that happening. But it's probably something they're gonna cause themselves, right? So this is their Philosopher's Stone. That might be their Philosopher's Stone, man. Their goose egg.
2010 by Bill Ryan, everything is going according to the plan and there isn't a single false or whistleblower that will change the minds of the elite.
China will catch a cold. And after that, then what effectively will be a kind of plague will actually spread right across the world to the West as well. And you've got this totalitarian military lockdown in all the governments in the Western world because everyone's going to be in panic about all of this. And then, he said, then the real war starts, something that would be justifiably called the Third World War with a much more major nuclear exchange. They believe that there is going to be what he called a geophysical event, a major geophysical event. There have been trillions of dollars that have been spent on deep underground bases for some reason, which we don't know why it is. That there are repeated cyclical geophysical events about every 11,500 years. Information about what really happened to Atlantis was very probably in the Great Library of Alexandria that burnt down a couple of thousand years ago. There are persistent rumors that much of that information has been retrieved and it's in the Vatican Library. This is information which is not in the public domain.
The occult.
Final thread.
See, when I was rambling earlier about the occult and whatnot, it always comes back to bite the whole world in the rear end, right? The occult. You got to go study the occult. You want to figure out about the blue flag state and the war with Iran and how U.S. is so connected. Go study the occult. You want to figure out how these religions are scattered around all over the world. How you got Kofi and Kwame in some village in Africa talking about Jesus Christ. Go study the occult. That's just a short little ramble. But it always comes back. Because even this that's going on right here, this whole world war, this whole government, political, like, power struggle, it still pulls all the way back to the occult.
Said now Ross Coulthart, along with many other UAP insiders, journalists and billionaires, are aware of the geophysical event and the fact that it's being hidden from the public.
What I'm aware of is that everybody's telling me we're on borrowed time.
To the extent you can talk about what might be imminent, what is imminent. Time is not a luxury that we can afford. The time has come. We need to start having the conversation collectively. We should have had it a while ago, but we really need to start having the conversation.
Yeah, it's probably already written on the wind one way or another, and it's going to happen. And there's little or nothing we can do about it. Part of that is a function of nobody's going to listen anyway. You know, and so who are we talking to, right? So
what the fuck are they talking about?
We'll know, maybe we'll have more information than the average person on the street is going to have. Things are really going to be bad, and how do you prepare yourself for that? And those that you love and care for, or friends, how do you prepare for any of that, right? So that's probably the best that we can do.
I think things are going to be pretty difficult starting in a few years, and from what I've been told by sources.
What does that mean? It's going to be difficult.
It's what things are? I mean, I can't say specific.
It's blowing me because these some smart ass people talking right now, and they being all like doomsday and shit and stuff. It's throwing me off. I don't like that.
Well, I don't know that much yet, and I can't really say, but just that a lot of what we take for granted now in life.
But it's the occult though. Some of these people in the occult too, they damn self. And when the occult makes out their prophecies, right, they go out and do their prophecies their damn self. Like the things that they say in these religious books. Most of the things that they say in these religious books is people that had the power at the time and the power and the means to do those things, they made sure that those things were done. Most of those prophecies, right? Okay. I can't really shoot them off the top of my head, but if you know, you know.
Going to be, we're not going to have it. A lot of things we have now that makes our lives as wonderful as they are.
He says that he is as sure as he can be that the people who are calling the shots in the world, you can call them the Illuminati, the controllers, the cabal, whatever name you have for them, they believe that there is going to be what he called a geophysical event, a major geophysical event. There have been trillions of dollars that have been spent on deep underground bases for some reason, which we don't know why it is.
Earth's climate also changes pretty radically over the course of, like, say, 10,000 years. It can shift from being extremely hot to extremely cold. You can really go down a deep rabbit hole if you read about ice ages.
So interesting.
That how much Earth's climate has changed. And
Are they talking about the poles switching? They think the poles are gonna switch. if they know that the poles gonna switch and they not telling nobody, that would be very, very like evil. I'm not gonna lie to you. Why? And what is building an underground base? I mean, that might do something. It might do something when all the goy just fade away.
Where the magnetically where the poles are has shifted over time.
So on the climate change issue, I'm fully convinced. After all these years, even though we may not know exactly what is causing climate change, we suspect it's the sun. We have a lot of evidence to show that it's probably the sun.
The answer to this is I think there is real concern about geophysical risks.
Yeah.
And one way to deal with that is to make sure we don't bet the rich on one planet. So I think the first is a solar minimum, where you get big drops in the economy and the agriculture and you can't feed the population.
Right.
So
because there are changes in climate because of the distance of the Earth from the sun.
Right.
And that changes.
Right. So we know throughout history we go through periods of solar minimum.
So they are worried about climate change, but they don't think it's coming from your suburban.
Right. It's not coming from human behavior. Now, there are environmental problems coming from human behavior.
For sure. That's for sure.
Right.
For the record, I have one friend who's very well informed who's convinced me that that is real.
The other thing is, it appears to me, if you go back through history, every 10,000, 12,000 years, we have some kind of huge disaster.
An extinction event.
A near extinction event. I think that whether it's a pole shift, a magnetic pole shift is one of the,
So they trying to harp on the pole shift. Yeah. If the poles really gonna change, ain't nothing we could do about that. But they've been talking about these pole shift things since I was like 15, 16, bro. I mean, it might just be fear-mongering. No government on this planet can make the poles change. They not like Pain from Naruto or some shit. They can't do that. But if it is gonna happen, and you got some people like this just being like very mysterious about it, and they just know like a great flood is gonna come, and like Florida and like half of America is just not gonna, the whole America probably not gonna be here no more, and all of this stuff. So what? That would be very crazy. That would be really messed up too. But I think they're just fear mongering. I think they're really just fear mongering because you got all types of sources, all types of like different angles of things that they're saying. Climate change. They're saying the poles gonna change. They're saying it's the sun. They talking about aliens. They talk about the gravitational machines. They talking about going to Mars. Come on now. I'm just saying, we gotta pay attention to it all sometimes. Can't let it all just pew and then pew pew. Saying, nah, I'm out though. See y'all, man.